Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Adult student requested a grade changed. I complied. The second story. Aerospace company doesn't replace IT staff when they quit. Workload doubles. I get permission to decline requests that don't come in the form of a help desk ticket. Everyone refuses tickets. I refuse work. No work gets done. The third story. Tourists asked to wait in vegan restaurant before opening. Insulted staff got spicy revenge. And the first story is, you need to grade my test accurately. It's for a scholarship. Oh, is it now? Let the pettiness ensue. As much as I'd like to start this off by saying things like, let me tell you a bit about me, or I'm so petty I performed at the Super Bowl halftime show in 2008, and then go into a diatribe about just how petty I could be, this is far from the truth. Perhaps in some alternate pettyverse where over a dozen college students were playing the part of and absolutely nailing whiny middle school students complaining about course requirements, or if they happened to begin to repeatedly harass me by way of being on ingrate demo mode, or spinning the wheel of you suck at teaching to come up with yet another complaint-solt wrapped in a thinly veiled question about me and how I run my course, perhaps then I'd let nature take its course and let my pettiness bloom, like a flower transplanted from an artificial habitat to a campus bordering field, in the form of malicious compliance. And wouldn't you know it, somehow, someway, petty finds a way. That being said, I really try to be a positive, supportive, caring, empathetic, far from sardonic college instructor. My clientele, as referenced above, are mostly college-age students who enrolling in what is basically a pre-algebra course my community college likes to call college math. I have the occasional young whiz kid who enrolls in my course to be super advanced, but for the most part, young adults in their 20s and 30s are who I teach, and solving systems of equations by substitution is currently what I teach them. I have many students who struggle and require additional tutoring, and I'm always happy to oblige. There's this one student who I wish would show up to our makeshift tutoring group but never does. Let's call her Mara. Mara acts like she's the SH. She seriously acts like we're back in high school. Interrupts my demonstrations, miraculously, because I literally direct instruction for 3 to 5 minutes before I popcorn around the room and treat it like a very large standard tutoring session. Mr. OP, my dad says this isn't the way to solve it. Mr. OP, why don't you teach at ASU? Our partnering major university we transfer students to. What did you do wrong that you're teaching at this place? The list goes on and on. For brevity's sake, I'll make sure this story doesn't. We have an exam that about half the class got a 90 or better on, followed by most of the rest getting B's, C's, etc. I know that this community college, despite its cheap cost, still has many students on full scholarship for one thing or another, whether it be sports, personal hardships, activities, etc. That being said, if I notice a student tanked the test, I may just grade the thing on a curve to allow them to get the most points possible. This is what I chose to do for Mara, and she wound up with an 18 out of 25 on her exam. I typed in the score, took a glance at her paper afterward, and realized she actually missed yet another question, a major one, that would have brought her grades super low. I decided to look the other way. Part laziness, part being nice. Let's not say how much each part's worth, but they ain't equal. So it's time to return the tests that I already had graded in the system when Mara starts up with her questions again. They're literally too tiresome to include. I'll say her final piece. However, Mr. OP, I noticed that you gave me an 18 out of 25 on my last test. Could I take a look at the test and see what I got wrong? I definitely didn't miss that much. I tried to use inflection to let her know that she should probably just be happy with the 18, by saying, yeah, I think I'd be happy with the 18 there, kiddo. Then she suddenly dropped a petty pebble at the top of a snowy hill. She continues, this time standing, walking toward me, and pointing her Cruella de Vil finger at me, saying, no, you can't just put whatever you want for my grade. 18 out of 25 is not even possible. I need to keep my GPA high because of all my scholarships. You need to grade my test accurately. Enter pettylicious compliance. I knew good and well that she did not deserve, by any stretch of the imagination, anywhere near the 72% that 18 out of 25 is. She didn't master 72% of the content. She didn't get 72% of the questions correct. I'll be honest and say that when I grade dozens of exams, I tend to look at the most important questions on each test and ensure these are 100% accurate. I always pepper in some spiraling thinky type questions. You know, stuff with rigor, but I don't grade against it. If I ever make an error in grading, it 150% of the time favors the student. I took her particular course's papers out of my blah-tash case, file through the exams and find her particular one, and look at it quizzically, Then I look back at here while my head is still positioned toward the paper. I'm trying so hard to give her an out. She wouldn't budge. So I say, you know what, you're right. I did make an error. Oh crud, more than one. I then, behind my desk where the students couldn't see what I was looking at, I graded her paper right then and there. By this time, I had memorized the answers to the exam without even needing to pull out the key. But I did, so I made sure she knew I was grading it thoroughly. You know, accurately. She wound up with a 14 out of 25. I handed it back to her right then and there, and let her know that I had changed the grade accordingly in her gradebook. That 14 she got, one of the solutions to the system she just managed to solve for Y but not for X, turned her high C to a solid D. She looked through the exam, scouring it, looking like the toy man from Toy Story, using an infinitely increasing series of overlapping lenses to look for one minuscule error on my part. I also made sure I took a picture of the test before handing it back, so she couldn't pull the "see, I made it negative, it's right" sort of thing. She's done that in the past. She quickly whipped out her phone to see how much this grade impacted her overall. She was livid without a direction to hurtle it toward. I could see that this act of petty MC on my part was a little too far. I actually feel bad for Mara. As she looked up at me, I could see her eyes well up a little bit. It was that too quiet right before something bad was about to happen. My spidey senses were tingling. Side note, this is why I hate Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man looked surprised at his death. He should have sensed it, right? But I digress. Before she started to take her clenched arms, that she looked like she was trying to remove the top of the desk from its connected chair, and turned them on me, I offered a solution. Look, Mara, remember you can do corrections on the exam for a fourth of the credit back, right? That'll get you almost all the points you were gifted in the first place. What do you say? She sheepishly agreed, wound up with a 17.5 out of 25, and has yet to give me a hard time since. The next story is, every request needs a ticket? Understood. A few years ago, I was an IT analyst for an aerospace company in Toronto. There were 3 sites, and 1 analyst for each site. I was barely able to keep up with the workload for my site, but managed. One day I found out that 1 analyst had given me a month's notice and had already quit. The company did not replace him. I had to drive daily between cities to manage both sites. Shortly after, my boss was let go, and I was given a new boss who lived in another country. The work piled up and several employees at a time would have non-working computers because there was nobody to help them. I had to stop supporting projects that I was involved in with other managers, like getting 20 computers for the factory floor. This was definitely going to blow up, and I needed to cover myself. I had to talk with the GM and explain that I get walk-ups, phone calls, texts, and emails because most of the employees refused to use the ticket system. I'd even have employees coming up when I was on a call and try talking in my ear. The GM decided that all requests must come in the form of a ticket. I adopted a no ticket equals no work policy and enforced it on all employees and managers. I also stopped answering texts and calls. I'd answer all email requests with "please open a ticket." Most managers refused, so I would just thank them for their time while they fumed off to file a complaint against me. A week went by with no copier on the main floor because everyone refused to open a ticket to request more ink. Everyone had to walk downstairs to make their copies. A week went by with several lathes in the factory not working because everyone refused to open a ticket. Several computer illiterate and lazy employees would now have to ask their coworkers for help because they refused to open a ticket, and now they're behind on their work. Sometimes a new employee would spend 2 or 3 days in the office with no laptop and no user account because the request never came in the form of a ticket. Employees would go on business trips without laptops because they refused to open a ticket. This went on for several months and I was able to partially manage both sites, but it was exhausting arguing with everyone else every day. I'd get threatened by management all the time, but nothing would ever come of it. I found out one day that the company wasn't planning on replacing the employee who quit, so I had enough. I spent a few weeks declining requests as usual, but when they came from a manager, I'd add, "And if you don't like it, then fire me. Request denied." Eventually, I decided my mental health was more valuable than the company, and when the last analyst went on vacation, I simply left my phone and laptop on my desk and stopped coming in for my shifts. 0 notice given. A week later, I get a call from HR. They found my wife's number as an emergency contact and said I let them down and there was nobody to help. I replied with "good, now you know how it feels," and left it at that. 6 months later, the only analyst left tells me the company replaced my position with 2, but they're still in rough shape. All they had to do was replace an employee. The last story is, come into my restaurant 10 minutes early? Sure. I'll say it now. The title may be a bit misleading. Background. I used to work for a vegan falafel joint that served it kebab style with different condiments and toppings. Think Subway. The branch I worked at was really supposed to be a takeout place, but you can come in and we'd have a couple of seats right in front of the counter behind some glass. As such, the place was tiny and easily felt cramped. This is important later. I was working early shift that day, and I had to come in at 9:30 to start my 10 o'clock shift, which wasn't too bad. But still around 9:50 in come two ladies who were clearly tourists. Not uncommon around the area, as it was the nightlife district. We got a lot of stragglers coming from the night before. They go to seat themselves in front of the counter. Now those 30 minutes before the shift was crucial for me. I got in the zone and had a method to the madness of how me and my boss prepared for the start of the day. It was a two-person job, and my boss heard them as they came in. I spoke English, so he expected me to deal with them. As they're about to get seated, I say, "I'm so sorry, we don't open until 10 o'clock. They give me the biggest stink eye and ask, "Well, yeah, but can't we just wait here until you're ready?" "Lady, I haven't even swept yet the floor you're standing on, so no." Again, we're not done preparing yet, so I'm gonna have to ask you to wait outside. Exasperated, they say something to each other in French. Now, I've studied French for 5 years and interned in Paris before, so I caught that they said that's absurd. These guys are bees. C'est quand ils sont des chiens. Not that there's a masculine and feminine form, but they decided to twist the language in a way to also be derogatory. When I finally let them in, they have that finally look in their face. I go about their business and ask them what toppings they want. They scan the display, and their eyes land on one pan. My boss and I are somewhat of a spicy guy, so we keep jalapeño peppers for those who like the extra kick. Remember I mentioned the area was for the nightlife district, but also it was sandwiched by the engineers on the other side. As such, we got a fair bit of Indians. They wanted that jalapeño pepper. The name was Chili Chili Bell Bell, because the way we sauteed it in its own juices makes your tongue and brain go ding ding ding. I tell them that okay, now hold on, it's very spicy. They give me that look, and then say to each other in French, "No, useless." Okay, B, game on. I whip out my best Parisienne, which I know is from the same area as theirs. Moroccan Parisienne, commonly spoken in the Fourier district. Attention, mes dames, these peppers are very hot. Some stuff in French that I can't really say. They realize I understood what they said before, instantly change gears and reply, "Oh, that's no problem, we're used to it." With a smile, I say absolutely, and start loading both of theirs with 5 to 6 of these peppers. For context, we're only allowed to put 1 or 2 for customers. Even I can only handle 3. My boss is at the back pretending not to see, but he knows absolutely what I'm doing. I hand over this pepper stuffed monstrosity to them, clean up the counter a bit, and fix myself a cup of tea. I watch them take the first bite, and see their eyes widen with horror at the mistake they've just done. I sip at my tea so as not to make it obvious that grinning ear to ear. At this point, my boss is laughing his A off behind the kitchen windows. I watch them sweat and fume right in front of my eyes and refill their water. In the end, they were champs and finished it all, but not without putting up a good fight. That's what you get for calling us bees. I guess revenge is a dish best served hot. Edit. Added the article des before chien because the people kept trying to suggest that I heard them say ils sont chiants. That's so annoying, which in fairness may be what they were going for, but realized they could also insult us by changing the vowel by being grammatically incorrect. In any case, what they had said was ils sont chiens. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out, and hit the like button to support the channel.